Yeah, started it right
Okay.
now.
All right. Hey, welcome everybody.
Welcome.
Once again, I'm Andres Martinez. I'm an engineer with NASA here in Silicon Valley. And welcome to Destination Space 2021. We scheduled a series of brief talks. Today's a very special day because we've been telling you that we had the spacecraft going to Mars, and it's really close. Today it's going to enter, descend, and land on the surface of Mars. In our rover Perseverance, it's going to start its mission. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Dr. Dave. We have Dr. Dave Demaray. Say hello, Dr. Dave. Demaray. He's our master of ceremonies, and he's gonna be helping us describe what's happening in the background. Okay. Okay. So remember, we're gonna have a Q&A session at the end, but there's only one rule. Let's be courteous to our master of ceremony, Dr. Demaray. Let's mute our microphones. He's gonna walk us through what to expect, and then we're gonna switch over to the JPL live stream, so together we can see all the excitement that is building up down there. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, hi folks. Maybe we have a couple of minutes to show you some pictures about what the mission's about and what we're going to be looking forward to here in the next few minutes. With that, maybe I'll try to share that screen and show you a picture of our rover once I get it up on the screen. Okay, so those of you who have followed the Mars rovers up in the past, you probably remember what Curiosity rover looks like. It's about as big as a Jeep. It's about 7 feet tall, it's 10 feet long, about 6 or so feet wide. It's almost twin, maybe you call it a close sibling, and this is Perseverance. And again, it's about that big. It's got 6 wheels, and it's got this big arm that goes out in the front. And that arm is really important for touching the ground and finding out things about the rocks that we're sitting on with the rover. As you can see, there's all kinds of equipment on there. We have a lot of cameras that are in the top of the rover sticking up. You see that mast sticking up in the middle there. And then there's all kinds of other instruments that tell us about the weather on Mars, tell us about maybe what the composition is of the rocks underneath us, and just a lot of things. And of course, the really cool thing about this mission is we're going to have 2 microphones. We're actually going to hear what it sounds like to enter Mars, land, and then to drive around on Mars. We'll actually hear the sounds on Mars for the first time. And then the other cool thing is that we've got a helicopter, and it's hanging underneath the rover. You can't really see it very well here, but that's going to be part of an interesting test flight to see if we can actually fly in the atmosphere of another planet under our own power. And that's really exciting. And maybe we'll hear more about that when we listen closer to the actual landing. So we want to go into an environment that we think was very nice for life way in the ancient times. And we're going to see if we can search for evidence of that life and also collect samples. It's part of what we want to do with that arm, and bring them and get them ready to be brought back to the Earth in a later mission. So a lot of exciting things here, and we can get into details as we go along. This is sort of a map of the surface of Mars projected onto a flat surface. And the blue illustrates the areas that are real low on Mars, and the red and yellow and orange indicate the high places like the mountains on Mars. And you can see the little circle over there is where Jezero crater is. That's where we're going to land the spacecraft today. And it's a crater that looks really tiny here, but it's actually a pretty good sized crater. And that's where the Perseverance rover is headed to right now and going to be there pretty soon. So that's where it is on Mars. That's a little bit north of the equator. The next slide shows a closer view of Jezero crater. And there's a real bright little oval circle towards there in the middle. And that's sort of the area where we are aiming this rover to land inside Jezero crater. And some of the other lines that you see around that are sort of curving around, it'll indicate how uncertain we were in landing our previous missions, like, for example, Curiosity or Insight Lander or Mars Pathfinder. We had a lot greater uncertainty about where we can land those previous missions. But that little bright oval you see in the center shows how much better our technology is now for landing on Mars. And that the technology will be a very exciting part of what we hear about today as we get closer to the landing. Okay, and then this is actually a picture that's a cartoon that shows what is going to happen as we hear about the rover going into the atmosphere of Mars and landing. So way up in the upper left is what the spacecraft looks like right now. It's called the cruise stage, and the actual capsule that has the rover inside of it. And that's what's been sailing along from the Earth to Mars up until now. But now what you see here is a series of steps where we get rid of the cruise stage, we do something called turn to entry, and now we're beginning to plunge into the atmosphere of Mars. And you can see it coming down on the left there, and it gets very hot as we go through the upper atmosphere at over 10,000 miles an hour. So hot that the atmosphere warms up this heat shield and protects the rover. But that's a really exciting part of the entry. We're going from 11,000 miles an hour down to about 1,000 miles an hour or so. And during that, there's a new technology that tells us exactly when to pop the parachute to guarantee that we're going to get inside that circle I just showed you. So now you see the parachute going along, and that down from almost like 800 or 900 miles an hour down to about only about 100 miles an hour, or a little less maybe. And that's when you see down in the lower right that the little capsule opens and the rover is lowered down. Right in here is another piece of new technology, which you'll hear about: terrain relative navigation. We actually have a map of the landing area, and the rover is given that map, and it can use that map to navigate with the little rockets. You see the little jets shooting out as it's coming down on the surface. It can actually navigate around to find the safest place to land on Mars. And you can see then finally it gets set down on the surface. So this is a very exciting new way it's got some new ways of making our landing more accurate. And it's the first time we've done that, a couple of these things. And so every time we send a mission to Mars, we're using new technology that gives us more power to land exactly where we want to do land, and also do new exciting new things once we get on the ground. And so here, of course, is the cartoon showing the so-called sky crane, that thing in the top there, lowering the rover down onto the surface. And there's an interesting point, which maybe we'll talk about when this happens. And that is that there are two important things here. It's when the wheels touch the ground, and then when the cables to that rocket up there are cut and that rocket flies away. When that happens, all the cables are cut. We have now safely landed on Mars. So there's two kinds of landing: the touchdown with the wheels, and then the second one is when the cables are cut and the rocket flies away. That is the time when we can actually say that we have safely landed. So that those cables have to be cut for this to be a safe landing. So you might hear some kind of a code phrase from the people down at the mission that they're telling each other that the wheels are down, but they don't want to tell the public that we've landed yet until they can confirm that the cables have been cut and the sky crane has flown away. So it'd be interesting to listen for what they're saying, and then get a sense as to whether the wheels are down and when we're now safely on Mars. They'll say touchdown or something like that's very recognizable as soon as the cables are cut and we're safe. Okay, so that's an interesting little thing to look for. Okay, so back again here. What is inside this little oval anyway? Why are we so interested in landing in that one little place in Jezero Crater? Well, it's because this used to be a lake. This crater used to be filled with water, and that funny little flower lake feature up in the center that's labeled Delta is where a river flowed into this lake and deposited a bunch of sediments, a bunch of sand and gravel and silt and so forth. On Earth, this is a great place to look for life because it's living in the water. The sediments are trapping some of these organisms and making fossils. It's a great place to look for life. And so that's the target. We want to land close to that so we can explore the delta. And here's a picture now that shows if we land down where that green line starts at the bottom, this is how we might explore this delta, climbing up through the layers and analyzing what we see there to see if we can find samples that would really be good to examine for evidence of life. And so that line as it goes up is just looking at more and more different kinds of rocks as part of the mission. We don't know exactly what our true path is going to be, but using orbiters looking down at this, we have decided this might be a safe way to look at all these different types of rocks. And so finally, the punchline is, what are we going to do with these samples once we find them and collect them with our rover? And that's the rover at the top there. Well, we want to go back with another rover and a rocket that you see down here on the lower left. We want to grab those samples, stick them in that rocket, and launch it back up into orbit. And once we get back up into orbit, we're going to transfer the samples to this other thing you see here in the lower right. It's called a Mars orbiter, but it has a special ability to capture the samples and then package them and send them back to the Earth. And these are missions that we hope will happen in the next 5 to 10 years or so, after we've given our rover a couple years or more to collect some great samples. So that's a little bit of an overview of what the mission's about and some of the things you can look forward to as we await the entry, descent, and landing. And I am finished.
That was a nice description of where we're going to be landing and some of the challenges, the reasons why. And now, Mr. Natividad, if you can please, let's join the live stream so we can start celebrating and seeing all the excitement that is building up at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory down in Pasadena, California.
Do we have a sound?
The atmosphere will start thicker. It's going very quickly at a fairly steep angle of 15 degrees into the atmosphere, and as it starts to slow down.
Just under, we're about 5.5 minutes from entry interface. We're still receiving heartbeat tones. We expect to continue receiving heartbeat tones until about 5 minutes after entry. At that time, Perseverance will be no longer in view of our antennas here on Earth. About 90 seconds prior to entry, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter should begin receiving telemetry from Perseverance and streaming it to Earth in near real time. There are a few expected short outages, such as when we have a plasma blackout or when we enter the peak heating phase. Aside from these outages caused by the plasma blackout, antenna switching, or high dynamic events, spacecraft events, we should have telemetry until about 90 seconds after landing. A plasma blackout is when the signal from Perseverance isn't strong enough to make it through the superheated, super fast air flowing around.
Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter should be in view soon of our vehicle and be able to listen to ones and zeros coming from a separate radio that's really designed to talk between spacecraft.
MRO reports the electro radio is powered on, ready to receive signals from the lander.
Okay. MRO is ready and able and waiting for to hear from our rover.
Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has reported that it's ready to receive the signals from Perseverance. It should be in a few minutes here. We're just
Flight Local 1
from entry interface.
Just a comment.
We don't need these 1 to 0s, as Swati said, but to land safely, but we really need it for our own health and well-being today, to keep our nerves under control. But
around this time, a second spacecraft, MAVEN, should begin picking up telemetry from Perseverance and will continue to record that telemetry until several minutes post-landing. We won't get that data for several hours after landing as it's being recorded and then will be forwarded to Earth later. We are continuing to receive heartbeat tones, indicating that everything is nominal. We're currently at about 3 minutes until entry interface.
Okay. Very soon we'll be getting 1s and 0s, I hope. from our radio on the rover. The entry interface is nothing more than just an arbitrary place in the sky that we've defined to be above the atmosphere. But from that point on, there's definitely atmosphere, and above it there isn't.
We are 2 minutes from entry interface. Perseverance is to transmit heartbeat tones, indicating everything is nominal.
So the tones can tell us whether something is bad or not is happening. So far the heartbeat is doing well. So the vehicle thinks it's in good shape to land.
Right.
Which is a great sign.
We're almost at the 2-minute mark.
We're just under 2 minutes from entry interface. As it gets closer to Mars, Perseverance is actually being pulled in by gravity and accelerating. By the time Perseverance reaches entry interface point, she should be going just under 5.4 kilometers per second. We're at about 90 seconds from entry interface and standing by for Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to pick up the telemetry. We are 1 minute from entry interface.
MROs are in receive mode.
We have confirmation that the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is now relaying data from Perseverance. We're about 30 seconds from entry interface. Perseverance is going about 5.2 kilometers per second and is about 190 kilometers altitude above the surface of Mars.
Confirm your jet data flow.
About seconds from entry interface. 5.3 kilometers per second and an altitude of 150 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation of entry interface. Perseverance is currently going 5.3 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 120 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
So right now it's approaching its peak velocity, but once it starts hitting the atmosphere,
It
resistance.
is now waiting until it begins feeling the atmosphere of Mars to slow it down. Once there is enough atmosphere, it will start controlling its path to the landing target. Navigation is also confirming that we can see a little bit of that slowdown of the atmosphere on the Perseverance entry capsule. Our current velocity is about 5.36 kilometers per second and an altitude of about 67 kilometers from the surface.
We are probably seeing MRO plasma blackout at this point.
This is about the peak speed here, peak velocity.
The vehicle should be doing its turns right now.
MRO has lost lock.
Perseverance. We have indications that Perseverance is now performing bank reversals in the atmosphere. These are the steps in order to control its distance to the landing target. Perseverance has just passed through the point of maximum deceleration and has indicated that it felt approximately 10 Earth Gs of deceleration.
MRO has lock again.
Yes. 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 Yes.
We saw a small outage of the UHF telemetry from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter during that peak heating phase, likely caused by the plasma blackout. Perseverance is still continuing to perform bank reversals in the atmosphere to control its distance to the landing target.
This control is called range trigger. This is one of the new technologies I talked about.
Perseverance is going about 1 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 16 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have entered heading alignment, which means Perseverance is no longer trying to control the distance to Mars, to the target on Mars, but instead is flying straight to the target.
Parachute.
So it now has the information it needs to know when to open the parachute.
Our current velocity is about 550 meters per second at an altitude of about 15 kilometers from the surface.
MRO is reporting good telemetry lock.
We are coming upon the straighten up. We are starting the straighten up and fly right maneuver, where the spacecraft will jettison the entry balance masses in preparation for parachute deploy and to roll over to give the radar a better look at the ground.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars. Perseverance is now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
This is the time when it starts figuring out how to navigate the
Yes. Yes.
Perseverance now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers above the surface of Mars. Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second at an altitude of 4.2 kilometers.
Almost there.
We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation. We have priming of the landing engines. Current velocity is 83 meters per second at about 2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
TRN Safety Bravo.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars.
Completing that navigation means it's found a safe place to land.
Yeah.
We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
We've lost direct-to-earth tones.
As expected. As expected.
Skycam maneuver has started. About 20 meters off the surface.
We're getting signals from MRO.
UHF is good.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely
Yeah.
on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life. At this point, the descent stage has flown away to safe distance. Perseverance is continuing to transmit direct through Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to Earth.
All right. First time we've used all these new tools and it works.
Oh my God. Oh.
Exciting, huh?
Oh.
MRO reports they're still getting telemetry from the lander.
We're looking at people who spent the last 10, 15 years of their lives for this moment.
We got it.
Touchdown confirmed. We're going to wait for the images.
Wow.
This is so exciting. The team is beside themselves. It's so surreal. Stay tuned. We might get some pictures.
Great.
Ooh, we may get some pictures.
Yeah, that mast is not up yet, but there's one camera that can look out over the countryside in its current position that we might get into. That is the biggest thing.
So much has been riding on this.
Yeah, so much has been riding on this.
Yeah, we just heard the news that Perseverance is alive on the surface of Mars.
It's not
Flight, we have seen the completion of EDL 3000. Copy activity. That is as expected.
This is exciting, and those of you that have been with us through
MRO is still seeing a strong signal from the
talks,
lander.
the past three weeks, some of the presenters may be in their room because they're part of the Perseverance team. So look for them. See if you can spot them. I know they have a mask on, but see if you can spot some of the incredible engineers.
We've just heard the news that Perseverance is alive on the surface of Mars. Congratulations to the mission. And looks like we have some more news in. It looks like we're getting the first image.
Ooh,
Here, take a look at the first image.
Flight, this is OL3. I have the target point on the map when you are ready. We are ready, OL3. Go for it.
They know exactly where they are because of the way they landed. And that image is taken by a camera that's on the mast. No, it's on the arm of the rover. It looks tilted.
Flight, I'll be moving in, showing you the safe zone that we've landed in.
Exciting. Very exciting.
Okay, there it is.
There it is. First photo. Perseverance.
Just put the
looks
first
a little
image
hazy
from
'cause there's a
Perseverance
cap
on
over
the
the
surface of
lens.
Mars. Now, it comes from the engineering cameras, known as the hazard camera. This camera is mainly used to help the rover drive safely around Mars, and we will get higher resolution photos later in the day.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So this is from the HazCam, which is underneath the deck of the rover, actually. And it looks really dusty because it just had all that dust at its landing. But it'll actually clear up over the next several weeks as the rover drives it.
All right, so we know the rover made it safely because it turned on its camera and it's sending us information. What else besides the rover just landed on the surface of Mars? If you know the answer, put it in the chat. Remember, there's a rover and there's something else. Another vehicle that we sent to Mars. I'll give you a hint. It looks like a mosquito.
You did. You led the team. You made it happen, man. Congratulations.
No, type in the answer. I want to see how many of you get it right. right, this is pretty exciting. Ms. Natividad, can we open up our Q&A session, maybe for about 5 minutes after they're ready with
We
us?
just got our second image in. Our second image is in.
Okay, these we have a camera in the front and rear of the spacecraft. They're near the ground, so these are pretty close. So you can see the wheels there, and they're a little dirty because we've got glass covers over these cameras. But
Yeah.
we took these seconds after landing, so there's still dust in the air from our landing event. So this is happening. This happened just seconds ago. Just arrived. And,
Amazing.
This is really amazing.
Okay, Mr. Natividad, can we
And,
move
we even know where we landed. This is the most amazing thing. The
transmission?
vehicle has told us where it's
Okay,
landed.
let's start our Q&A session. All right, so how many of you answered the question? What other vehicle also landed on Mars? We know the rover. The rover's name is Perseverance. I think I saw some of you say a baby copter. Others said a helicopter. Who remembers a name? That is right, but who remembers a name? Type it in. Type in the name. I want to see if any of you remember the name of the helicopter, the first Mars helicopter.
I think we got some answers.
Remember, Perseverance is the rover, and it was placed on the Mars surface using a crane, using another spacecraft, right? Yes, the sky crane was used to put the rover on the surface, but there's another.
That was so exciting.
So, Jonathan, today's my dad's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to your daddy. Okay, did anyone type Ingenuity?
Woo, Ingenuity.
Yes, Ingenuity. That's the name of the first Mars helicopter. And guess what?
Curiosity.
Chief engineer of Ingenuity is gonna be talking to us next Tuesday. He's gonna be telling us all about his Mars helicopter. So don't forget to join us next Tuesday, okay? Remember, next Tuesday at 12 noon. Today was a special day. That's why we started at 12:30, so that we could be here with the NASA JPL team together and celebrate the landing of the rover and Ingenuity. Ingenuity is part of the landing, okay? All right, if you have any other questions, remember, you mute your mic and you raise your hand, or you type the question in the chat, okay?
We have Alexander Scherger. Go ahead. Alexander.
Will Curiosity be able to track down Perseverance?
Oh, will the Curiosity be able to meet Perseverance?
I'm missing her.
Oh, good question.
Did you catch can you restate that? I didn't quite catch all that question. Can you repeat it, Olga? Or
I miss Bert.
Alexander, can you repeat your question, please?
I said was that can Curiosity, the other rover, track down Perseverance, which is the one that landed?
Oh, yes. He's talking about the other rover that was sent previously.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to that one? Oh.
Oh, well, actually, I'm involved with that mission, and we're driving up this mountain and looking at some very interesting rocks. And it was another big lake on Mars that happened a long time ago. The two rovers are real far apart from each other. They'll never drive and meet each other. They're hundreds of miles away. But, they're looking at another interesting lake. And there's just so many interesting places, and we don't get very many chances to land and explore them. And so that's sort of frustrating because there's so much neat stuff to explore, and we have just a few rovers. But these are all very interesting places, and we're learning a lot about what that early Mars was like. So that's why we like these rovers. So there are a number of questions about, like, one,
Emma?
will Perseverance come back to Earth? And no, it will be there forever.
Emma Sitlali, go ahead, Emma.
What actually kind of happened on the Challenger's launch? Did a fuse blow or something?
Oh, Challenger. Yeah, that was unfortunate. It was a problem with the rocket. There's a lot of very flammable fuel inside of it, and it leaked out and caused the rocket to explode. So Challenger never really even got into orbit around the Earth. And that was like back in the 1986 or something like that, I think. So anyway, so that was one of the few times that
People said that there was a teacher on the Challenger.
Okay,
Yes, there was a teacher, the first teacher that we trained to be an astronaut, Krista McAuliffe. Guess what? Unfortunately, Krista and the rest of the Challenger crew, they died in that accident. But her backup, another teacher, did go to space. She became an astronaut. And
I miss Bert.
And she's my friend. Her name is Barbara Morgan. And I told her about Destination Space, and she may be joining us soon. Okay? She may be coming and also do a brief talk. So that was a surprise I wanted to give you today. So stay in tune with our Destination Space 2021 brief talks, because we have a lot of amazing people that are going to come and talk to you. And you know why, right? We're doing this because we want you to do well in school. We want you to do well in school, do your homework, listen to your teachers and your parents, be good community citizens, because we're waiting for you. We want you to come and work with us. Okay? That's why we're doing this. We want to make sure that you see all these amazing things that we do, so that you can start getting ready to come in and work with us. All right? One more question, and then we have to run.
Okay, let's go with Daniel. Juan Daniel. Go ahead, Juan Daniel. What is your question?
You're unmuted.
You can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Juan Daniel.
What will happen if a rover runs out of gas?
Ooh.
What will happen to the rover when it runs out of gas? Okay, well, these rovers have something called a nuclear generator that actually generates energy, electricity for the rover to use as to drive around and do its instruments. And we think that this will last probably for 15 years or so. But at some point, you won't be as much energy coming out of the nuclear generator anymore, and it won't be able to drive very much. So it'll just slowly slow down. It won't be able to drive very much. It won't be able to be as active. And at some point, of course, it'll just stop working. But I suspect that the rover will be active, very active for the next 10, 15 years, and maybe not so much active after that. But we may be still talking to it 20 years from now. So when you guys are in your careers and working for NASA or whatever, we may still be talking to that rover, although it won't be driving around so much.
Okay. So again, remember next Tuesday, let me open up a document that I want to share with you guys. Give me 1 second.
I miss Bert.
Give me 1 second. All right, so again, this is Destination Space. This whole month has been about Mars, the Mars Perseverance and Ingenuity. So today we celebrated its landing on Mars, on the Mars surface. All right, so now the rover is going to start performing its mission. And next Tuesday, and then in March, we're going to shift our focus to the Artemis program. That's the program that I and the rest of my division in the Advanced Exploration Systems, this is what we do. We're responsible for the Artemis program, which is going back to the moon. All right. So today, let's all give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Dave Desmarais for being our MC. He did an amazing job. He's a scientist who works on everything Mars related. And I am so honored that he was with us today, because we have a real expert who's working this with us. All right. Remember, next week, yesterday we had Dr. Fernando Hicks. Next week we're gonna have Sergio Valdez, and he's gonna give us an overview of the Ingenuity Mars helicopter. He's the chief engineer. and he's also at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. And then Luis Dominguez, who's also on the Perseverance team, he was a member of the team that assembled it, that built the rover and everything else. Okay, he's gonna tell us all about his work and how he became an engineer and how he started working at NASA. And then our last presenter for February is next Thursday. So Eric Aguilar, he's going to be presenting the delivery. He's going to be presenting the sample caching system. That's what he does. So Perseverance is also collecting dirt and rocks from the Mars surface. And it's going to be placed, these are going to be placed on a container sample caching system for a future mission to come and pick it up and bring it home, bring it to Earth. He's worked on this system and he's going to tell us all about it. So who's going to come back next week to listen to these incredible speakers? Raise your hand if you're coming back. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. All right. So again, this is Destination Space 2021. And why do we do this? Why is Dr. Dave Murray and myself and other presenters spending our lunchtime with you? Because we want you to do well in school and come work with us, okay? All of you should start getting ready now so you can come work with us, all right? Is that a deal? Okay, thank you, Dr. Desmarais. Thank you, Mr. Natividad. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. This will wrap up our session. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you, folks. It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.